I've got a pile of them over here in the corner.
Yeah, shut up, John.
Podcasting equipment debates get heated.
Yes, that's the way to start a show.
I'm going to take my balls and go home.
That's no good because that's what we're playing with, man.
You're playing with my balls?
So no driving gloves after dark is just the show now. We don't wait till 9:30.
It's 10 o'clock here in Vermont. It's 10:02. In fact, we're running late, so apologize to everyone who was undoubtedly waiting with bated breath for us.
Oh, those people that watch us in a couple of days, they'll never know. We don't.
Oh, but this is flavor for them because they can imagine they're watching it live with us. But it would be better if
describe the flavor. Describe the flavor. Are we talking like exhaust that's running too rich? Has a coolant leak? What flavor?
No. Why would the no driving glove car have such a foul odor? I mean, we're all professionals here. Like, I just drove the Corvair today. It started right up. I had to top off the battery, admittedly, but the exhaust was not over rich. It was delightful. Now, it didn't leak any coolant because there isn't any in a Corvair.
Well, there's your problem.
Hey, don't lie. Yeah. I saw the steam coming out from under the hood on that car one day.
Yeah,
it
was probably some dry ice. Yeah,
he was cooking.
It was manifold cooking. No, I don't. That engine.
There isn't even a manifold up front.
No, not up front. And if there's smoke coming, it's the gasoline heater. Actually, I was thinking about this.
Fun. I like having my gasoline warm. I hate cold gasoline. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Cold air, warm gasoline. That's the key. That's what you want in your intake charge. Dense air, ready to sublimate gasoline. Sublimate's not the word. Vaporize. There we go.
I say sublimate. That's what we do to t-shirts and stuff.
Wait, I thought sublimating meant turning from a solid to a liquid or to a gas without stopping in the liquid form along the way.
Yeah, that's how you do it's sublimation of t-shirts.
Yeah, sublimation on t-shirts. Same. It's a very similar. Yeah, that's why they call it that.
Oh,
it's the process of putting the ink. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, I was just imagining my t-shirt evaporating.
Speaking of t-shirts, I really hate those like local car show 1950s airbrush t-shirts. Why do people do that?
I mean, can you be more specific? Because like you're talking like monster t-shirts from the 50s, like Ed Roth's?
No. Like the ones from today that are like, or maybe from like, maybe nobody's doing it anymore. I don't know. When I was a kid, like 90s, 2000s, like when we had the car club going at Central, those t-shirts that were like airbrushed with the Tri-5 on them. And, it was the car the guy brought to the cruise. And
I don't know, man. All those guys are dead and retired now. So there's no sense in being
dead and retired. I hope they retired when they died.
Hey, I don't know. As hard as it is to get a promotion in this society, I don't think they all are. Let's look into some of those ghost executives.
Yeah. So what other car show fouls can you think of other than bad t-shirts?
We finally got away from the 60s music at every car show, but I'm sure the kids today.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible.
Why the hell are we playing metal? What's this Motley Crue crap?
Well, the funny thing is that it sounds like a 90s car show at my house because I mean I have a pretty diverse musical rotation, but there's a lot of doo-wop in it. There's a lot of Beach Boys. Like I grew up listening to that stuff, and unlike everybody else, I don't hate it. I love it because it gives me good feelings. When I hear who wrote the Book of Love, like suddenly it's 1994 and I'm at the Merc Deuce reunion with my dad, seeing a Flathead for the first time.
But here's the thing: you listen to it when you're in the mood to listen to it, not when you're forced to listen to it at a car show.
Well, I mean, you went to a social event. You choose to listen to the host's music. I'm sorry you think it's don't go.
I'm not saying the music's bad. I mean, the Beach Boys to me are almost as classic as the Beatles. It's a long-standing argument. It's the American Beatles. But I've always said, if you want the youth to come to these shows and join in and have fun, you've got to embrace some of their tastes and their styles. Now,
Mhm.
Yeah, they might hate the Beach Boys, and I might get tired of the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean and all this at car shows. Yeah, but play something that I like and then convince me. You can teach me why Jan and Dean's good and why the Beach Boys are good. It's that education thing. Bring them in, tease them just a little bit, and then bring them in and convert them.
I
Mhm.
think you're
saw-
misunderstanding the purpose of a car show. Because a car show is to attract a bunch of people that are going to do the thing that you want to do. So bringing in a bunch of people with different newer cars who like different newer music defeats the purpose of having a car show if what you want is people to show up with muscle cars and 50s stuff and hot rods. And cars are just going to naturally self-segregate like that. Like if you've got, some kind of educational purpose, I guess, but then why do we have to enjoy the car in a vacuum? Why not set it against the music that is appropriate to its time period?
Well, we
Like,
can.
I don't know.
But
I don't.
and if
I'm not
that's the
buying this.
case- If that's the case, then play all different genres of music at the car show, not just 50s and 60s music. I'm fine. There was a car club that my dad and I belonged to. Yeah, when I was in high school, we'd have, I think it was Wednesday night cruises at the Big Boy in Owasso, Michigan, and they would do that. The DJ that came in that they brought in to play the music, he would actually go around and ask people or look at what year the cars were from, and then he'd find out what the biggest hits and the different like styles of music were in those years, and he'd play those songs, and he'd mention which car in the show was or in the cruise was from that era and all that.
That's great. That's a good one.
He was actually
I love
very.
that.
I mean, I don't remember who it was or anything, but it was I mean, I was a junior, senior in high school, but to me, I enjoyed that. I was like, that's cool. Like, because he'd play music from 74 and he'd say, oh, there's a 74 GTO here, and, on and on. So,
You see, I don't care what music you play at your car show, put it that way. But then don't stand there and go, we don't get any new people coming. We don't get any kids. The youth are not coming. Well, you're not doing things to attract them, and your show's going to die and something else is going to come on. It's like, I saw a post this week on Facebook
Well,
about
wait a
one
minute.
of the.
Is that really about car shows though, or is that about the car hobby as a whole? I mean, that's what you're really saying in that case as that organizer is like, there's not enough kids with 50s and 60s muscle cars here. You're not going to solve that by the music at your car show. You got to solve that systemically by getting those people into those cars at a much higher level.
Well, again, if you don't enjoy what's going on there and you're pushed off because of the car you drive, the 50s and 60s cars, those guys are going to stand around and go, well, geez, what happened to the car hobby? That's the way it's been for years. I've said on this podcast repeatedly, I used to get laughed at for driving a CRX to a car show. Well, in 1990, all the cars are, when we're in the neighborhood of $50,000 and $70,000 CRXs now. So
I'm still going to laugh at you.
They ran us off. And
right.
To be honest,
if they had let you stay and your friends had showed up, they'd have gone somewhere else and gone, yeah, nobody goes to that car show anymore because it got taken over by all those noisy kids. That's not a winnable scenario you're describing for the car show. You're going to get a critical mass of one type of car or another. And what brings in a greater overall mass is just a function of what's popular in society.
Well, I was going to say, there was this social media post this week about we have 3 big car shows that take place various Saturdays in the morning. And somebody said, well, at this event, are classics there? Or is it all, Japanese and sports cars? Well, I'm thinking back, there's a lot of British sports cars from the 50s and 60s. So what if they are sports cars? And maybe there's no classics there because you guys haven't driven out and seen. Maybe you should go out and see. It's an all-encompassing car show. The latest and biggest car show in the Birmingham area that's extremely popular used to be just the exotic guys. And then they've opened up to everything. And we're getting anything from pre-war to, pre-war serious cars, 32 Chrysler Phaeton things and Auburns. And I think there was a Duesenberg at one of them, up to your Packards from the 50s, to your muscle cars, to NASCAR race cars, to the latest Porsche GT3s and GT4s and Lambos and all of that. It is a car show that has something for everybody. They even have a section with rock crawlers. They have a section for pickup trucks. And it's a great show because they figured out how to please everybody. And that's impossible in this world, but they seem to have done it.
And what's their playlist?
It varies. And sometimes it's even live music, and it's anything from they're doing 60s, they're doing metal, they're doing recent stuff. I don't think you're going to be there with Taylor Swift and Britney Spears, but you're going to have the stuff.
Some of Britney's stuff is 25 years old now. It should, Hit Me Baby One More Time. That goes along with your CRS.
You can hang a license plate on her, a classic license plate on her ass now, right?
Well, and I will say she's aged very well. She's a very nice looking lady.
Well, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with
I'm guessing there's 3 people looking into the camera that probably had crushes on Britney Spears when we were younger men.
I didn't even know who she was, except for one of the professors at McPherson kept bringing her up, our mechanical, and I can't think of his name. Mike was his first name. I think Mike Watson.
Mike the mechanic?
That's
incredible.
Mechanics was years before, and you think that's what he would enjoy, but no, he was obsessed with Britney.
Oh no,
you can't blame him.
I had a professor in law school that he brought up Lindsay Lohan in virtually every conversation. Or no, I'm sorry, not Lindsay Lohan, Shania Twain. He brought up Shania Twain in she was in every theoretical problem and stuff. And he was a car guy. He was a really interesting car guy. He was old enough that when he went into the Army, he had a 57 Thunderbird. And this was not an antique car at this point. And he took it with him to Germany and discovered, as you will, that it was a little too big for a lot of the streets in some of the villages he was visiting in Germany. So he traded it in on a 2002, a BMW Neue Klasse sedan, and still had it when I was in law school in 2007 or whatever it was. Yeah. He said he had to make his wife stop driving it though, because she could never remember to push the manual choke back in. And she'd always stall it out in an intersection once it warmed up. But we were all like, "Oh, you got rid of your T-Bird," but then it was but he still had this really awesome, I don't know, when did they first come out? 67, 68, somewhere in there. Yeah,
sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, he had a nice tour of duty in Germany. But his argument for this car was it was more expensive than the Volkswagen everybody was driving, but he wanted something that was safe on the Autobahn. Sounds good to me. Yeah.
So why did we jump on the car show topic, Derek? Was that because of?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It was the music. We were
music. No, there was the T-shirts, the bad T-shirts.
Oh yeah.
What were other car show faux pas?
If you think back, those T-shirts, the airbrushing, well, that was the way you did your graphics. That's the way. I can think airbrushing all the way up into the early 80s, the Vanning era, all the airbrush work that was done on various cars, lowrider scene. So I think you had the airbrush artists available and they were willing to do things. And we weren't in this world where, I mean, I've got a sublimation printer, going back to that topic. I think that was a pre-show topic, but behind me.
No.
So I can make t-shirts and that kind of stuff here with just a quick little AI thing. And, 30 minutes, I can have a shirt turned out. That wasn't the way it was previously. And I think the airbrush guys, because they were already in the car hobby, we can knock out a few shirts for you. And it was supporting the people in the hobby. That would be my guess, but I wasn't there.
Well, I still think they were ugly.
You know how many car show t-shirts I own? Zero.
Too many.
I have never liked a single car show t-shirt graphic design. It's the saddest thing. Like some of
you know what I use them for? You know what I use them for?
Shop
undershirt. Well, and when they wore out, but undershirts for out in the shop. Like if I'm wearing, like a undershirt, like I got here, like white t-shirt, but I just wear the car show shirts or free shirts I get at places. And if they get a little greasy, who cares?
Yeah, I don't have room for that. I just get my nice clothes greasy.
Oh, all right.
I don't have room for these scrap
teach
there. I love graphic t-shirts. So this is a topic for me. Like I love graphic t-shirts. I'm wearing one right now. Like I got my Buick authorized service shirt on here, but why are car show t-shirts so hard? Like, and when I worked in an organization that put on car shows, no one wanted any input because everybody thinks they're a brilliant t-shirt designer. And just at the end of the day, and by the time of the most recent crop of car show t-shirts, everyone was printed with this thick, rubbery ink. Okay, Philemont Car Show, in fairness, I have not seen your logo. So yours might be good. You should run that by me because obviously this is I'm an important arbiter of taste in this matter.
I have never heard of the Philemont Auto Show. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it Philemont? Where is it located? I need a little more detail on this. Fill us in here.
Yeah, I think that is, but it would be better to have.
Section.
Yeah, the comment section is going to be better at giving the details on this. It's one I'd like to get to, and I have not been. But the rubbery inks, that was my point. Make even these shirts, like even if you weren't going to display the questionable graphics choices, or even if the graphics choices were good, you can't wear them because you've got a sweat patch of this unbreathable rubbery material on yourself that nobody wants to be working in the garage with. So it's like don't waste the fabric.
The other thing I hate, and not, I don't think they do it much on t-shirts, but when you have like a polo shirt or something, say you're like event staff, like at a car show, but they do the, I'm sorry, I'm not a seamstress or whatever, but I used to get them where they had the like white hard material, like really scratchy
like for the embroidery.
Thank you. Backing that the stitching would go through. Like that's and I've had some that, I mean, the backing is huge and it's like I don't want that itchiness on me.
Is the Philemont Car Show
really
in
Philemont
really in Purcellville, Virginia?
I have no idea. That's what we're asking.
Looking it up here. I mean, I used to live a stone's throw away from Purcellville.
Full disclosure, Philemont and I went to high school together. He's a really cool guy, and he's had some cool cars. And I know he's really put his heart and soul into this car show, which is one of the reasons I'd like to go check it out.
Well, it would be Sunday, August 25th from noon to 3 p.m. If I'm looking at the right Facebook page for the right show, and I can't think why we'd have two car shows named that.
Neil, I cannot tell you how many Corvair t-shirts I have not purchased because they've all been bad. I don't own a Corvair shirt of any stripe. I have a Corvair patch that I want to sew onto a shirt. That's as close as I am.
I think you need a shirt that has nothing about Corvair on it. No image of a Corvair, no word Corvair, no anything. But it simply says unsafe at any speed. And you just need to wear that whenever you drive the car.
No, I want a bumper sticker that just says Ralph Who that I can point at when people talk to me about that.
Ooh, I like that too. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
Mr. Auto Show.
you know-
I used to commute to work through Middleburg, and I can't think of the other two towns on my way from Haymarket or Fairfax, depending where I was living, on the way out to White Post there. So
I'm going to say this, guys, but Philemont Car Show sounds like a great event to have, I don't know, a live broadcast of No Driving Gloves from.
we talk
That'd be a
about
lot of
that all the
fun.
time. We want to set it up. We can. I'm in a position
I got to
now
see
that
where my travel budget is in August, to be honest.
So.
Our car show
Philemon
logo
says
is
the car show
used
logo is-
for the account's avatar.
But that's like smaller than a dime on my screen. I'm old here.
I know. I was going to say it looks very small and very political. I see a lot of
It
red,
looks like,
white.
well,
and
no,
blue.
it's not political. It's like a shield. Like they're near DC.
Yeah,
Right?
it looks
so
looks
like,
kinda
it's like the
political.
federal. Yeah. That's not politics, man. That's like civics. There's supposed to be a difference.
civics. What's Honda got to do with it?
No, oh dear God, that is where we are as a society, isn't it? But yeah, no, like don't you ever like think of like, weren't you ever a coin collector as a kid? Think of like the Barber nickel with the big shield of Lady Liberty sitting behind it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I still got a lot of coins. I don't know why, but why not? Right? Just a coin collection that means nothing.
Well, they're cool. I mean, what does anything mean? Like, I suppose they've got metal value, but I just love to pick up this thing and be like, wow, this has been around since 1880. It was minted in Carson City, Nevada. There isn't anything there today. Like, what does it mean? Like, I don't know. Not all of my
Well, here's-
antiques have to have a total purpose. A lot of them are just straight up broken, although I don't like to admit that.
That's what makes them antique.
No, that's not what. Being broken is not what. Has my wife been talking to you?
That's why I'm not an antique yet. I've never broken anything, and nothing's broken on me now. So I'm
My
not an
right foot is
antique.
definitely antique. Yeah. Carl Von Newman says, I have the
Derek,
best
you
t-shirt
would-
that I wear to auctions. In my
would
defense, I
like-
was left unsupervised. Knowing what I know
you
about Carl,
you
I
would like this show, Derek.
Which show?
Looking at the
No driving gloves? Yeah, it's okay.
the Philomont.
Philemont.
Phil Amont.
I don't read all the letters in a word. It's a very well known.
If you used to live there, you of all people should know the right pronunciation.
I didn't even know the city was there. I knew where Percival was, but
I do like saying Philo more than I like saying Philo. In fairness, it feels better in the mouth.
It feels more scientific.
I thought it felt more like, I don't know, ancient Greek, like
Yeah,
philia,
I can see that. Yeah,
love of something,
yeah.
love of the mountain.
Love of the auto show on the mountain.
Otto is Otto Greek?
I don't know. I was just going with
Or is
auto
it
show.
Latin? Classic languages get munged up in English.
Dave, you have been sent the logo in full
I have
size.
the logo. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, so it won't ding and such during the. Here we go. Oh, okay. I like it. So it's a red, white, and blue shield. Think of it as like the Union Pacific shield, railroads.
That's a good. Yeah, I can see it in
Yeah.
there. Yep. Yeah.
text
and
it
it
to
has-
me, Dave. Maybe I can get that popped up here on the screen.
Hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
You're
text it
our
over.
technical guru.
Rock on.
Now, I
Speaking
have
of
to
great
say I like
forms of
this.
transportation, railroads.
I love railroads. If they outlawed cars, which is not looking likely these days,
No.
I would become a hardcore model railroader. I grew up with an HO layout in the house, and I would build one in a heartbeat. Sorry, John. I'm flapping my lips, yapping as the kids say, and not actually texting.
Yapping the
go.
flap.
Flap. No, that's a word that's right up there, like with moist, that I don't enjoy hearing.
Yeah.
I
It is
always like
inspired by the
using the
Union
word
Pacific
moist.
Shield.
Flap it all anyway. Oh, that
So
is
I-
a
the
good
version-
looking logo.
Yeah, and I like this version that I sent over because it's got the tire as the
Yeah, you got the tire and then the road sign and then the information. Yeah.
Neil, I've been planning to build a model railroad since I lived with you in college, and it's always been the same model railroad. It's very detailed in my head.
Yeah, Neil, and he still blames for you for not letting him build it when you guys lived together.
You know, honestly, your room in the house would have been perfect for a model railroad layout. If we could have just gotten bunk beds, and I think it would have been cool. We would not have had as many girlfriends as we did in college, but you know, Neil's not into that. Neil played guitar in college. He was much cooler than me. Both of my kids, no, not both. 2 out of my 3 children now play guitar, which is interesting, an interesting development in my life. I feel like cars and guitars seem to go together for a lot of people.
I
My
own that
buddy.
website, Cars, Guitars, and Cigars.
Okay.
Mhm.
Philomont Car Show says if you come out here saying Philomont, you will be run out of town. And it sounds like more on a rail and not like a polite, like, here's a roadster ride to the edge of town. Please don't come back.
Well, you'll be run out of town by the roadster. It'll be behind you,
I mean,
pushing you along.
even a Model T would be hard to outrun. Car paint schemes are often used on guitars. Car paint for a long time was used on guitars, like nitrocellulose lacquer
Now,
was
wait,
developed.
are car paint schemes used on guitars or are guitar paint schemes used on cars?
I
How do
think
you like that?
no, I think they were taking inspiration from Detroit for those
Yeah,
guitar schemes in the 50s.
I'm,
Now,
I'm just being a pain.
oh, sorry,
Mhm.
I'm being overly literal. Go with what you're good at.
A lawyer. What do we expect? No, but I mean, yeah, car paint schemes, interestingly, make their way onto a lot of things. I mean, you think about, and I mean, it's still in the case of a guitar, it's not necessarily in the auto-related industries, but I mean, how many Snap-on toolboxes have been painted, in 57 Chevy colors and themes and
a
all
lot
the
of
different
refrigerators get refinished.
refrigerators. Yeah.
In fact, there is a $75 1951 Frigidaire in town calling my name lately. And I own a pickup truck now, so that's a particularly hard temptation to resist. But I've sworn that if I get a vintage garage fridge, which I want, it's going to be either a Muskegon built Norge, or it's going to be something interesting like a Stuart Warner, or it's going to be like a 1940s Frigidaire, like the typical, like when you think of a 50s Frigidaire, what you're really envisioning is like the 1946 to 49
Right.
Frigidaire deluxe model, which I don't know how many people actually envision a Frigidaire, but, or I would take the GE Monitor top, the one that looks like it's got the big white cheese wheel shaped thing sitting on top of the cooling compartment. John, you got that logo queued up, man?
It's not wanting
He's
to.
working on it. Well, leave him out of it.
I
The
don't
problem some of us have, Dave, like myself and Mr. Model T, who was commenting earlier, we would have to get the old ice boxes and have them in our garage to match our cars.
Oh, that would be cool, but then you'd have to get the Iceman to come around, which is hard.
Well, no, I've actually thought about getting an old icebox and converting it and hiding, a cooling system in it and all that, and a nice hidden plug somehow.
Watch me make Derek's head explode. Then you'll approve of this. I've got a buddy who has an old Sears motor wagon that's been converted to electric using hidden golf cart parts.
I think I have seen that on Facebook. Does he or somebody? Has someone posted about that on Facebook?
It's entirely possible. I stay off Facebook as much as possible. I do succumb to looking at marketplace. But
Is it a old Sears high wheeler?
yeah. And
Yeah,
and in
I'm
fairness, the
pretty
original
sure it's
car still
floating around
exists
Facebook.
mechanically. He just got the cast off body and did his own thing with it. And it looks very authentic. Hey, ta-da.
Oh, that's cool.
Philemont
Hey,
Art Show. Auto
you mean
show.
Philo?
No. Philo is a doe. Philo is the love of the mountain. Now, is this Loudoun County that we're seeing here in outline?
That would be Loudoun County.
Loudoun County. See, I can't pronounce anything. When I first came here, they told me I was saying Albany wrong. Like, it's not Albany. I was like, yeah, it is. And there are Albanians living there. They didn't like that.
Interesting. Well, and it
There you
depends on
go.
where you go because, here in Kentucky, it's for sales. It's not for sales.
Oh,
it's
like-
for sales.
Like voir dire down there in the South is Vordar.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, the rich tapestry of America, part of it is our accents, which of course have been flattening more and more as we're all exposed to one another all the time.
Yes. And hey, what made that possible?
Film, video, fiber optic
Well,
cable,
Yeah. But
also the automobile, which is the answer.
railroad and the automobile and planes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could argue that the wheel was the first assault on regionalism, I suppose, if you want to be ultimately reductive.
Freaking wheel. We need to just get rid of it.
Hey, man, the Incas did great things, just using like skids towed by llamas. So,
I mean, llamas are pretty cool.
Carl Von Neumann says, "Come mispronounce the city and town names in Wisconsin," and that's always fun. And also, and then in Michigan,
Hey! We grew up in
the
Michigan.
official pronunciation is wrong. So you got Gratiot and Detroit, which are just blatantly wrong pronunciations of those spellings in the original language. So
Why do I have to keep going to places to mispronounce names? I mispronounce names directly to the people that are named the name that I
Right.
mispronounced.
And it's much safer to do it here through a microphone because we're
Wait,
out of
why
it.
is Neil going to the Corvette Museum in 2 weeks?
Because he
That's
likes
what I wanna
Corvettes.
Because he'll be in Kentucky.
Okay. Anyway, all right, cool. If you drive about an hour, a little over an hour south, you can come to Lane Motor Museum. Really cool
They-
stuff.
They have a Corvette there too. So
We do. You're right. C7.
park it next to your Viper.
They're actually not. Right now, the Viper's in storage. The Corvette's on exhibit. So they haven't. I don't think they've actually seen each other yet.
Will they fight if they're exposed?
It's very possible.
Now, is there a GT40 of the same vintage available, or is that not in the GT40 years?
That's not really a car we would collect.
The
Well, I'm just
C7
thinking-
would be, well, the GT40 is from the 60s, so it misses the Viper and the C7
Well,
by decades.
Pardon me. Is there a GT? Because I know
GT.
they dropped the 40 part.
And the GT would be between the Viper and the C7.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
And it would take probably 10 Vipers or 10 to 15 C7 Corvettes to buy that GT. So
Oh yeah, easily, yeah. Yeah, it's odd because the Viper and the Corvette are probably the two most common cars that we have at Lane Motor Museum. They're just, they're there for other reasons than kind of what they are. The Viper a bit just because of the Bitsa story. They just had to build it out of whatever they had. But it's also there for other reasons. It was actually Sam Posey's car. The
That
famous.
sounds so cryptic. No,
race
just
car
say for other
driver.
reasons and then move on. I like that better.
For other reasons, don't open the
For
trunk.
other reasons,
Um,
you don't need to.
and
Come to
and the
the museum
C7
if you want
Corvette
to
was,
know.
yeah, exactly. The C7 Corvette was Jeff's dad's very last car. So we have the first car and the last car of the kind of the family patriarch. So rounds out the story.
Very cool. So, what is a more typical car in the Lane collection?
What do you mean by more typical?
Representative. I know that none of them are typical, but what is a representative car of the Lane?
Name a car you have never heard of.
So it's a hipster collection.
It's a very eclectic collection of cars.
My favorite car, you've never heard of it. And when you have, it won't be my favorite car anymore. I used to drive
Exactly.
a Tatra, but they're everywhere now. Downtown, there were 2 Tatras out in front of the
Well, I
the
mean,
Starbucks.
we do have like 22 Tatras in the collection, so
Of course, yeah. So I got a Trabant. And what did I
They're
see?
pretty-
Trabant in the KFC parking lot.
yeah,
You can never
yeah,
have too many Tatras.
we have 2 Trabants. Sorry, very common. Mhm.
Now
Yeah,
there would be
no.
a cool T-shirt for you to put together. For some reason, I'm stuck on that. Save the Tatras.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, the T87 that the T77, 87, and 97 were kind of notorious for the flipping over thing because of the swing axles in the rear. High center of gravity, high speed, turn. They like to tuck under and kind of go over. And of course, years ago, Haggerty was doing a piece on the worst driving cars in history, and they had picked the T87 as one of those due to that. And they actually conveniently flipped ours over on its side during the actual driving segment of that article research. So
I hope there was
we
insurance.
well,
Well-
I mean, number one, it was Haggerty driving it. Number two, Haggerty
That's the
insures a
joke.
lot of our cars. So, but we have a wonderful T-shirt that does say "Check yourself before you wreck yourself."
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Now, a stunt like that worked really well for Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear when he rolled the Renault Robin.
No, the Reliant Robin.
Yeah, the Reliant Robin. See, I mispronounced Reliant. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go back
yeah,
to
yeah.
Earl.
And you mispronounced Renault. I mean, you didn't even get any of it right.
That's no, because I was trying to say Reliant.
So
My
anyway,
throwback.
but how can you not tip over a 3-wheeler? Like, that's just asking for it.
Well, Derek's
Actually,
got that
none of our 3-wheelers have tipped over.
And Derek's
You're not
got that
driving them hard
two-wheeler
enough.
in his museum with the gyroscope, and it doesn't tip over.
Mhm.
Well, the
Yeah, I mean,
gyroscope's an unfair advantage.
There's a typical car for the Lane Motor Museum. A gyroscopically balanced 2-wheel car developed by Alex Tremulous and Tom Summers.
Now,
And-
does that
and-
really constitute being a car because it has 2 wheels, or because it has the little outriggers making it 4 wheels for when it parks?
I mean, technically it has 6 because it has the 2 main wheels. It has the outriggers that drop down for when it's parked and the gyro's not running. And then it also has the rollover protection safety bars that go out with the little wheels on the end of it so you don't completely roll the cigar as you flip over.
So you know what my favorite legal definition of motorcycle versus car is? Whether it has a functional reverse gear.
a functional reverse gear.
So I would bet
that
half the
some
cars in the,
jurisdictions use that. No,
I would bet half the things
not a
that appear
broken
in
reverse.
cars from Walmart would be
not a broken reverse, but one that has been deliberately blanked off. So, like a lightweight car that in some countries would be a car could be sold in some jurisdictions. I think this was Britain, if I'm recalling correctly. As long as it had the reverse spot blanked out on the shifter. Then this was similar to like motorcycles with sidecars. Some of them had reversing gears, and I think they'd be taxed as automobiles if they did in this jurisdiction.
Yeah, actually, a number of European countries did that. I mean, that's why we had microcars. The microcar craze in Europe was surrounded a lot of that because most microcars use scooter engines. It's the Scuda car. Yeah, it's the Scuda car has a 2-stroke engine, and of course, everyone knows how you reverse a 2-stroke. And that was your reverse gear. You would just shut it off, flip the switch to start it in reverse, let it spin down to the right, kind of just before it dies. You hit the ignition again, and it starts backwards, and you go back.
And you get creamed by the semi-truck.
Well, I mean, details, right? And over there, they're called quarries.
Yeah.
Over there,
I gotta take issue with this though, which is similar concept, but not totally related, because that's a displacement tax that spawned all those micro cars. But those are still cars legally under the definition of whether it's got reverse or not.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know all the detailed laws, but many of them were classified as motorcycles because of the CC size and engine size. In some cases, they were 3-wheelers, and only 4-wheelers were considered cars or automobiles in European countries. So there were a whole bunch of laws and basically, ways to get around taxes that the companies were using. So that, I mean, really, it came down to rebuilding Europe and trying to make sure people could afford transportation and everything that needed to happen after the war. So
now America had a cycle car craze kind of right before World War I that didn't survive.
Yes,
the Model T.
Well, and
those are some
that really started in
cars.
France. Yeah, the cycle car craze started in France and then was brought over here to the U.S.
What was driving it though then in pre-World War I France? Because then it's not about rebuilding, right? France is at the top of its game practically, coming out of the fin de siècle time period.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the famous cycle car that kicks everything off is the Badalia, and that was the Badalia was big in racing, lightweight, inline seating, very sleek car. Yeah.
Yeah, Voyager Routeway is really awesome. I mean, it's sort of like, I don't know, what would you say, like Formula Ford or something in the pre-war era?
Maybe like Formula V.
Okay, that's a better comparison. I was trying to think of one.
Yeah, I think Formula V.
Yeah. But that looks, I mean, and that's sort of where, I mean, if you look at the roots of the SCCA in ARCA, I mean, those guys started out with a couple cycle cars, including a home-built one and some Austins, which were, just a kind of a half step up from a cycle car in the 20s. So really the same sort of thing, and on very tight short circuits. So it's a really accessible form of racing, and it's too bad that there isn't an automotive equivalent of them, a road going equivalent of those vehicles today that could become an entry level to that kind of sport.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading our comments as you were listening. Carl, I think I know probably who you sold it to. We have a gentleman that works there that is a collector of Model Ts and some other early automobiles, and not myself, another gentleman that's worked there for many years. So it's very likely, Carl. But yeah, I mean, I get, we really don't, and of course safety, all the federal safety standards make that very difficult to have anything like that. But I guess you could almost think of like the oh God, what are those called? Um,
The
the
slingshot things.
Thank you, slingshots. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could think of like the slingshots and maybe the Ariel Atoms of the world as the modern version, maybe. Although
Yeah,
they're
although
like really high horsepower
and
for the
very
weight.
openly sporty. I mean, not like there's no pretense of economy about a thing like that because we no longer have, I think, that concept of a topless car being the cheap one, like was true 100 years ago.
Rumor is nothing topless is cheap.
Oh,
This just in.
you're referring to Jeeps, of course, and not something that would be less family
Yeah.
friendly.
Convertibles. Yeah.
Yeah. When the top goes down, the
Goes
price
down, the
goes
price
up.
goes up.
Yeah. Except,
and paint it red and you can't afford it.
but I mean, that is an interesting thing. Like, and what if you could do a grocery well, it wouldn't fit very many groceries, but like a commuter version, one of these slingshot things with like an enclosed cockpit. Would that sell?
No, you
They-
know what would be really
They
cool?
have enclosed cockpits for your slingshots and that now.
But that's
what
like an
would be
accessory
really
on a
cool?
sports car. That's not like a cheap
Yeah.
commuter version.
No, what we need is the light delivery version.
Like a Morgan,
Yeah.
Morgan delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Now Morgans are cool three-wheelers. I don't know about you guys, but for me, the three-wheeler like acceptability line is 2 wheels in front, 1 wheel in the back is good. 1 wheel in the front, 2 wheels in the back is silly.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Also,
So Morgans,
1 wheel in the front is way more unstable.
I'm
That's
going to
just-
Right.
ask, have either one of you actually driven a 3-wheel motorcycle, car, whatever, on actual roads?
no. Derek has.
I mean, early ones like the Lane has, yeah, but not any of the
No.
modern stuff.
Do you know what the problem with these vehicles are? You
The
can't
modern ones?
avoid you can't avoid potholes. You can't avoid
Yeah.
anything in the road. No matter where you go, one of those
One of the
tires
wheels is
is
gonna hit it.
Wheel. Yeah.
and it makes
Well,
them horrendous.
You can tell you're from a warm weather state, John, because up here there's no way to avoid the potholes regardless of what you're
Anyway.
driving. Yeah. No, you're just going to hit them. In the F-250, they rattle your fillings out. In the Cadillac, they just set you to a gentle bounce after a while. But yeah, it's part of the challenge of driving on real roads. That's why it was weak of them to take the Grand Prix off the streets of Detroit when the roads got too bad. They should have beefed up those cars to take it. That's racing.
That's right.
Well,
That's a street course.
Not the Mythbusters episode, but I recently saw an episode where they were discussing cars and at what speeds you needed to go to not react to a pothole. And the faster you drive, the smoother the road becomes. So I don't see why the F1 cars would have a problem. It should just kind of glide over those absences of pavement.
Just use ground effect.
Yeah.
Reverse grip.
Tune your spoiler and skim gently over the streets of Detroit. And that's what I told the cop. Still wrote me a ticket.
Yeah. I will say the Morgan 3-wheeler is a very cool car. But if you like the Morgan, are you familiar with the BSA 3-wheelers of that period?
I have seen them, but I don't know that I could rate myself as
To
familiar.
me, the BSA is a better looking car. Better looking 3-wheeler. I like the look of the BSA over the Morgan.
My dad was a BSA motorcycle owner in the 60s. So hearing about those bikes as a kid got me tuned into the brand. I had a tin sign for the BSA Bantam hung on my wall as a kid, which, speaking of things called Czech, that was actually a repatriated, I think a Zundap, but Indian had a Czech motorcycle design they produced at the same time, that 125.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, I've always been cognizant of things marked BSA, and the 3-wheelers, you're right, they're more streamlined, and the Morgans are more kind of cobbled looking. I mean, they're not cobbled looking, but they're not as integrated looking as the BSA, shall we say?
Yeah, the BSA is refined.
There we go. Refined
It's that
lines.
refinement. Yes.
But I've never seen one in person. I've seen a number of Morgans in person, all the way from, I think 30s vintage ones up through some of the modern Harley V-twin powered ones. Morgan is a
Now,
really interesting company.
The car you need to go ahead and talk, because I'm going to text you a picture and I'll send it to John and maybe he can get it up. There's the BSA. Yeah.
That's lovely. That is lovely. But if you like engines, and I think car people tend to, the advantage the Morgan has is that JAP is like hanging right out front where the full radiator grill is on the BSA.
Yeah. All right, John, I'm going to send you, in my personal opinion, one of the best looking three-wheelers ever built. And let's see if you can get it up on the screen here. I'll send you the link to multiple pictures.
I hope it's the post-war Davis. The one that looks like a pointy upturned bathtub.
No, it's not. No. See, and that the Davis, interestingly enough, there you go. The Davis is one of the single front wheel, two rear wheel cars. But that car, actually, they figured out it's a very fairly stable car, even though it's a single front wheel. But we have Baby in the collection, which is of course the prototype of the Davis, the first one. The first Devon, not the California. It's believed to be built on the California, which was his first prototype. And we also have car number 6. I think it's number 6. So we have 2 Davis in the collection.
So what is this? So Davis is one of those cars that I know primarily from reading about in the back of the standard catalog when I was a kid. But wow, that's a cool car, John. What did you just put up there? The Castrata Special.
Castared.
Castared Special.
Castared. Mr. Pierre Castared was from France and built this car when he was 17 years old. It uses a mix of Amilcar piece parts along with underneath that back hatch is basically the entire back half of a Nomatron motorcycle. And it is completely original still. And let me just say, it is one hell of a car to drive. It is fantastic.
That the spare behind the grill?
It's actually the 2 spares. There's 2 spare tires tucked in there.
So it's fun to drive?
It is an absolute blast. It is fast. It is everything that a three-wheeler from that period should be.
Very cool. So what did this gentleman go on to do anything else automotively in his life, or he just did this one thing and that got it out of his system?
He, of course, went into the French military, as they all had to do. Served his time and then came home, and his grandfather and his dad had both been mechanics, and he took over the old shop, and up until last year was still living in the village he grew up in, and still had the barn where the shop was, where that car was built.
Wow. We should all have
he's
such a
90. He's like 94, 95 years old now.
Nice. And how did you get wind of this machine? It's beautiful. I love the Art Deco modern styling of it.
Our founder, Jeff Lane, saw it at Retromobile and was able to acquire it at Retromobile back in like 2022, I think it was.
That's the big it's not Bonhams. Who? Sotheby's auction in Paris.
There's the auctions that happen, but inside Retromobile at all the different booths and things, you can also just privately sell cars. So this one was a private sale, not through auction.
Interesting. So Retromobile is sort of like, I don't know, like the Barrett Jackson of refined European machines?
Mm, probably better than. I mean, I think
Okay.
Retromobile is a very well established. Not the Barrett Jackson isn't, but it's to me. I would say it's. I mean, I have not been. I know a lot of people that go. It's on my bucket list to go. But it's, and of course it's European, so everything there is much older, right? A lot of early cars at the show, a lot of early automotive history versus what you get here in America with more of the modern mid-century and up stuff.
Well, I mean, better is a judgment call. Clearly different, but I mean,
Look
I'm
who's
thinking
talking.
like scale and diversity. Like, are we talking like if you
I
walk
think
into
it's
Retromobile, like, go ahead.
I think it's way bigger than Barrett Jackson.
Okay, so
Well, I
I'm
did a
trying to
quick.
remember. It's in one of the giant, like multiple buildings of the Grand Palais or whatever there in Paris. The massive like event thing venue they have.
and do you have like non-automotive lifestyle vendors amongst the car attractions?
Here's the quick.
Good question.
Here's a
I've
quick
again never been.
quick AI summary on it. Retromobile is an annual prestigious classic car exhibition held in Paris, France, that serves as a major gathering for collectors, enthusiasts, and industry professionals. Showcasing a wide array of vintage and classic vehicles, automobilia, and related events. It's held annually in Paris at the Paris Expo Porte de Versailles, a convention center, and has been running since 1976. Exhibitors, Retromobile attracts a diverse range of exhibitors, including manufacturers, collectors, sellers, auction houses, restorers, coach builders, vendors of parts and automobilia. As a matter of fact, I think was at Retromobile that we had a buyer go buy the Marshall headlamps for the Cunningham I restored about 20 years ago. There's a collector car auction. There's themed exhibitions. There's various events. And then, of course, the cars with the focus on both high-end and more affordable models from vintage to collector vehicles. And let's see here. And here's a bit of news. In 2025, Auto Week is reporting that Retromobile is expanding to North America with a new exhibition called Retromobile USA, which will complement the original Salon Retromobile. That's all I have on that one.
Yes,
maybe
there is
that's
there's that rumor floating around, but no one seems to know any details yet.
Yes.
So it sounds like this is almost akin to like maybe a larger event like Amelia or Monterey, but all canned in a single area versus spread out over a town and run by independent operators. So it's sort of like Paris Car Week.
I think it's kind of unlike anything we probably have here in the U.S.
That's also fair. I mean, like we don't have anything that really is equivalent to like say Goodwood either.
We need it. Of course, we were talking about that last week. Have we reached out to our former colleague, friend of the show that we want to start having those discussions with yet, John?
I have yet to do that.
How dare you?
Retromobile, according to DuPont Registry, Retromobile USA will take place November 19th through 22nd at New York City's Javas Center.
That's a terrible place
to go to New York.
Actually,
let's put a bunch of cars in the least car-friendly place on earth.
November
20th. Paris.
And that says,
Paris.
Excuse me, that's
London,
also
New York.
November 2026.
There.
So we're a year and a half off.
Well, that's
there-
practically in my back door, so I'll take the train down and meet you guys.
Well,
I'm not-
there's all the information we have on Retromobile. Sounds like Dave's got some YouTubing to do. I did want to ask you guys before we closed, and I put it on the list, and I know you're avoiding it.
No, we just haven't
And
read it.
I don't want to get political at all. But are you doing anything in preparation for the potential excise or tariffs coming towards the end of the month? Like, for
I am-
example, what brought this up for me is I needed to get tires for the Camry, the Fiesta, and possibly the Mini. And I'm going, those could be very damn expensive come April 3rd. So I've infused a bunch of money into buying multiple sets of tires for my cars. I ordered a new Apple computer today, preparing for that, assuming there could be a price increase. I was just wondering, is that just a concern that I might be having and a few other people I've talked to? Or is that something that, maybe if we're needing something?
That's a concern
Potentially.
people with cash reserves have. Yes. And since I do not have cash reserves to invest in stuff reserves, it's not a concern I've been indulging. I am working on setting up a steel factory. So hopefully I will also have cash reserves. But I mean, that's probably a good, I don't know, at least 3 months out before I'm in full production of steel. I got to buy some land in Pennsylvania and I don't know, talk to Andrew Carnegie or something, I assume.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm
You're
working on
the fire.
yeah, I'm working on
Customer
figuring out
process.
how to build a refinery in southeastern Kentucky for rare earth minerals. So
Stick to
Well,
bourbon. That's what you're good at down there.
no, actually, supposedly the southeast, the coal veins in southeastern Kentucky are rich in rare earth minerals, and of course, we just seem to not know how to mine them and refine them here. So,
Well, that's like supposedly the fracking waste in Pennsylvania is all full of lithium that they can refine without, but there's not enough Bolivian child slave labor or something to do it in Pennsylvania.
Well, Derek's kind of alluded to something that, you could take advantage of. The McPherson Auto Restoration Program was founded by a gentleman named Smokey Blue. His original concept is he wanted to put Model A's back into production circa 1976, 1977, and approached the college about forming a program to teach automobile assembly. And the college didn't quite buy that idea, and they convinced him to do this restoration program. Smokey Blue made his money by being in the middle of Kansas and where they used to have salt mines. And he decided to store, or came up with a way to store natural gas in these abandoned salt mines, and made tons and tons of money. Created many a ghost town, but made tons and tons of money doing it. So all Derek's got to do is find a couple caves in that. We don't have to worry about the EPA or something probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Hopefully IRS also. But when the EPA goes away, Derek can start saving up all these abundant resources that we're going to be mining again. He could work into the storage side. Derek could go into warehousing.
actually, if you just pack it all into old mines and old caves, then you can just mine it again a lot easier. You just
And we could
go
store
down.
some under the Corvette Museum.
So you guys are getting into mining. I'm getting into crafting. This is seeming really familiar.
Hmm.
Now, I was just wondering if
Yeah.
I was the only one doing something like that, and maybe
I mean, it probably makes some sense, assuming prices haven't already started to go up. I haven't been checking, but with everybody implementing dynamic pricing,
I have noticed, because part of my day job is I travel to over 100 and some different major big box retailers doing audits all month. And I have noticed some items that have been consistently $125, say, are now $138. And I mean, they've been $125 for 2.5 years. And just recently they've had this $13 price increase. And there's other items like that. I've started to notice some price creep in the Walmarts and Targets and stuff that I go to, because I'm always watching I'm always watching pricing. But like I said, I think we're already beginning to see some of the increases in prices in preparation, which, won't make us feel so bad when things go from 138 to 150. It only went up $12 when really it went up $25 or something. So, but yeah, so you're right. There's already been some price creep. So the retailers are preparing for it. So any carpet people out there, you need a set of tires, or I don't know what else that you might need that could be imported, maybe a car. I even came up with this concept, and I'll say it out loud. I would like to replace my Fiesta, and it works. It's a decent car. It works and it runs. I'm trying to decide, should I go out and buy a used car right now to replace it, buy it this month? Because are we going to see a run up in used car values again if new cars all of a sudden take us $5,000 or $7,000 price jump?
It stands to reason. Yeah.
So could we be in for this a lucrative used car market all of a sudden? That's another
How
thing.
much are you looking to spend? I'll sell you on Malibu.
I really would like to get into a pickup or a van or something, and that's my
Nah, those are gas guzzlers. You want a Malibu?
What, we're gonna have more gas.
I'll make you a deal.
By December. Now I'm looking at this 1-ton Dodge van, 97 Dodge extended van, 3,500. I've been looking at some like 2000, 2003 Silverado pickups, some things like that.
Get the van, sell the house. So you can live in the van.
Well,
I figured I could get rid of 2 or 3 of my warehouses. Last time I had a van like that, I kept a ton of stuff in it. My Escort station wagon used to only fit one person because the rest of it was full of stuff. So, but
my kids were complaining about the stiff suspension in the truck, and I was explaining that it was built to haul a bunch of weight, and when it wasn't hauling any weight, there was nothing to flex the suspension. And they were like, well, we should just call a couple of refrigerators around all the time. And I was like, well, that might work for the ride, but the fuel economy might take a bit of a hit.
I would buy the van if I knew where I could park it. That's my problem. I really don't want to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on this van to go pay $80 a month for a parking spot, when I could probably rent something from U-Haul for $100 every now and then when I needed it. So it's that old story. The best trailer to own is your friends.
Yeah.
So do we have anything else we want to jump into? We covered 4 or 5 topics tonight, and hopefully we were engaging and interesting, and maybe so.
I felt engaged. And I do feel like I got to go out and buy tires. I think a lot of mine are just reaching their expiration date. They probably just bought tires last in 2015.
My 2012 Ford F-150 was the first car I ever actually went out and bought tires for, because I actually kept it long enough to replace the tires. It's one of the few vehicles I've ever put a new set of tires on. This will be the second set of tires I've put on the Fiesta. I drive it so much. I did an analysis yesterday or the other day with a couple of the other people in the company that drive, and they were talking about, I bought a brand new car in October and I've already got 20,000 miles on it. And, I'm really trying to use more rental cars. I went out and bought a $5,000 car. After put 100,000 miles on it, I've done about 4,000. I'm going to end up doing about $3,000-$4,000 of maintenance, because I'm going to have the timing belt done, with the tires. And I figured the gas and what we're paid for mileage, I'm probably $10,000, $12,000 ahead in the deal, as opposed to being bought a brand new car and depreciated everything out of it in 6 months. So, but now it'll be the second set of tires I actually have bought for a car. So I will have gone through 2 sets and be on the third, just in time to potentially sell it.
I'm on the third car on the same set of tires, believe it or not. The tires that are on my Corvair were previously also on my Falcon, one of my Falcons, and on my Rambler. So yeah, I've kept the tires, changed the car. But now the
Well,
tires
with
are bad.
the Camry, I'm actually going to keep the old tires because they still have some life left to them. But she was a little nervous driving in the rain the other day, in case it's what I call my poor person's syndrome, afraid of going broke. So I have a spare extra tire for the Fiesta. I have a spare extra tire for the Mini. I'll have a spare set of tires for the Camry in storage in case I need them and I don't have any money.
You can tell you lived through the Great Depression as a kid.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm that old. You bet. So with that, there's the QR code. You know, if you would like to buy us a coffee, tell a friend
If you
about
liked,
us.
yeah.
If you found value in this, please buy us a coffee. Again, we've got new offerings coming up in the next couple of weeks. Still working on that. Anything to wrap up from you guys, or?
Just a thanks
Yeah.
and goodbye.
Yep. And remember to share the show with other people that you think might like it.
And thank you everybody for doing it, because the numbers are going up pretty good recently. So with that, I guess I better put my drink down, because we got to hold on, because it's time to get off your ass, go burn some gas, because we